That's not
$8.
right. $1. Thank you. If one stole truma but did not eat it, he pays double the value of truma. If he ate it, he pays twice its value and a fifth. The value plus the fifth from chulin and the value of truma. If one stole truma of hektish and ate it, he pays 2/5 and its value, since twofold payment does not apply to hektish. One may not pay from leket, shikha, peah, or hefka, nor from ma'aser rishon, from which its truma has been taken, or from ma'aser sheni or hektish, which has been redeemed. For one holy thing cannot redeem another. This is Reb Meir. But it could come and say with the permit with these. Reb Eliezer says one may pay with one kind for another, provided that pays. Oh man. One may pay from with one kind for another, provided he pays from the superior for the inferior. But Rabbi Akiva says one may pay only with the same kind. Therefore, if he ate cucumbers of the 6th year, he must wait for cucumbers of the 8th year and pay with them. From the same source that Reb Eliezer derives his lenient ruling, Reb Akiva derives the stringent ruling, as it is written, "And he shall give the holy thing to the priest, anything that may become holy." So says Reb Eliezer, but Reb Akiva says, "And he shall give the holy thing to the priest, the holy thing that he ate." Okay.
Right, Perek Zayin, Ochel Truma Mezid. Right, so up until now we were talking about somebody who accidentally ate Truma. Now here's somebody who knew it was Truma and didn't care. Okay, and now he has he wants to do teshuvah, or else the kohen took him to Beis Din or whatever it is. So this guy, he still has to repay the principal. So if he wants to do teshuvah for what he did, he still has to repay the principal, but he doesn't have to pay the chomesh. Not only he doesn't have, and the way that I think the Rambam says this is is it the Rambam who said this? Yes, the Rambam. So the Rambam says that because his avera is too great, giving an extra chomesh isn't going to help. So why are you going to give him a? Why are you going to make him have to give a chomesh if it's not even going to be a kapara for him? Okay, so that's frequently, by the way, there are a few places where we have this perspective in halacha, is that you find that there's a lesser penalty for a greater avera in some cases. For example, let's say the ir miklat. If somebody killed somebody by accident, he has to go to an ir miklat.
Right.
If he did it deliberately, but there were no witnesses, he doesn't go to an ir miklat.
You just
Right?
can walk. You
Because
can just walk
it's not
around.
going to be
Nobody
a kapara
knows.
for him. It's not going to be a kapara for him. So why are you going to send him to galus for no good reason? You've got he's technically off the hook, and there's nothing you can do. So the ir miklat won't be a kapara for him. Why are you going to
Right.
do that?
I think the same thing occurs in terms of musar. If you need to give mussar to somebody and you know that they're going to listen to you, they may
Mm-hmm.
not follow you, but listen to you. You can talk to them. If it's halfway there, halfway that, you can think about whether he would or not. But if you
Yeah.
know this is the kind of person that no matter what you do, stand on your head, whatever you do, he's going to fight with you and argue with
Right,
you. It's
and
not going to do it.
it's probably the same principle at work over there. I mean, it's not that's not a case of a kola or a chumrah, but
Right,
it's the
right,
same principle at work there, where it's not going to work. So why are you going to do it?
right, right,
All you're going to do is you turn him from a shogeg into a mazid.
right. Sorry.
Okay, so hatashlim in chulin in this particular case where somebody was mazid, then when he repays, it doesn't become truma. He's already destroyed the kedusha from the world. So all that he's doing now is making restitution to the coin for a monetary value. And the imratza coin limchol mochel, and if the coin says, forget it, it wasn't a big deal. He's allowed to be mochel, and then the person doesn't have to pay anything. So basically, what he's done by removing the kedusha deliberately, by eating the truma deliberately, is he has removed the kedusha from the world, and there's no fix for that. Um, all that he can make a, if there's a civil claim from the coin, then he has to pay the coin for the food that he ate from the coin. But there's no kedusha. It doesn't get
Right.
turned into truma. And if the coin says forget it, I don't care, then he can be mochel. Okay.
Okay.
Mishnah Beis, Bas Kohen, Shenises Yisrael. So she is a Kohen's daughter, which means that when she grew up, she was eating truma.
Mhm.
Now she gets married to Yisrael. And then afterwards she ate truma. Now she forgot herself, or whatever the case is. Now the Mishnah gives us an interesting little chiddush over here. Mishalemes is a keren. She does pay the keren, but ena mishalemes is a chomesh. But she doesn't pay. Chomesh. So this is according to Rabbi Meir. We'll see this in a minute. Ena mishalemes is a chomesh. Umisasa b'streifa. And her death penalty is by streifa. Sorry, this is a consensus point here. Later comes Rabbi Meir. Okay, so which means that if she commits adultery once she gets married, she has a different death penalty from a normal adulterer. Normally, the death penalty for adultery is chenek, strangulation, but there's a specific penalty stated for a kohen, because for a bas kohen, because she brings an extra disgrace to her father's home. So therefore, her death penalty is by streifa. Okay. So the basic halacha over here is because she's a bas kohen and she has some shaychus to, and she could theoretically return to. There are actually going to be two reasons that she could go. It either could be because if she gets divorced, then she would go back into her father's home.
That's right.
And she'd be able to eat truma, or else it could be because she's because she was born eating truma and she's from different stock, and therefore she has an intrinsic shaykhus to truma. Okay, so now let's see the case where she can't ever go back into her father's home. She gets married to somebody that she's not allowed to be married to. Okay, she marries a halal, she marries a mamzer or a nasin.
Right.
Okay, one of the forbidden marriages for her. Once she enters into this marriage, she will never be allowed to eat truma again, even if she gets divorced. Okay, she's passed herself from eating truma. So now, says Rabbi Meir, Mishalemes keren v'chomesh. If she now eats truma, she goes to the status of a regular Yisraelis. Umisasa v'chenek, and her death penalty if she now remarries somebody she's mutter to be married to, and she commits adultery, then her death penalty is that of a regular Yisraelis. Divrei Rabbi Meir.
But I'm confused. We say that her death penalty is by either strangling or burning. So
Yes.
she's going to go through that. She's not eating anything anymore. Right? If she's going to be burned or strangled, then she's not eating.
Well, I'm not sure what your question is here.
My question is, so we're saying that if she does any of these things, she has to pay the value or whatever it is, but her death is by burning, or her death is by strangling.
Her death penalty is in the event that she commits adultery.
Right. Okay. So in either one of those cases, she's going to be dead. So why are we worried about what are we worried about what she's going to eat or not eat? Because she's
it's a separate case. If she eats truma, she has to pay keren v'chomesh, says Rabbi Meir, and if she commits adultery, then her penalty will be with chenek, like any other bas Yisrael.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So two different halachas, completely different cases, no connection to each other.
But the halacha is not mentioning if she does it willingly or b'shogeg.
Obviously willingly.
Right. So
in terms of the adultery, she can only be executed if she had hasra and adim and.
Right.
Okay. But in terms of the truma, we must be talking about a shogeg, because otherwise there wouldn't be a chomesh. If there was a mazid in the truma, then she certainly wouldn't have to pay chomesh.
Right. Okay.
So we might, by definition, we must be talking about a shogeg. Okay. So this is the opinion of Rabbi Meir, that once she has defiled herself by living with somebody who she's not allowed to be married to, then she loses her din as a bas kohen. Chachamim omrim zo v'zo mishalmos es hakeren v'einan mishalmos es hachomesh u'misasan b'streifa. They say that even if she marries a mamzer, for example, and then divorces him, even though she's no longer allowed to eat truma, she still only pays the keren, not the chomesh, and she still got if she commits adultery, then she still got a din of streifa because she's still a bas kohen, and that never got removed from her. Okay, halacha follows the chachamim. So basically, you can see that there are two different reasons we could speculate why the bas kohen originally has the halacha of not paying the chomesh. So according to Rabbi Meir, it's because she could theoretically return to her father's home by getting divorced or being widowed, and then she would still be allowed to eat truma. However, Chachamim say it's nothing to do with that. It's to do with her intrinsic kedusha as a bas kohen, which is why she doesn't. Why these halachas follow her, and the halacha follows Chachamim.
And there's no effect on the father in terms of there's no the wrong word, punishment. There's nothing that affects him at all. This is
why would it? We
would.
know that sons are not punished for the sins of fathers, and fathers not for the sins of their sons.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay. Mishna Gimel. Hamachil es banav katanin. Now, what happens if he feeds truma to his young children who are under bar mitzvah? Ves avadav. Okay, it's avadav ben gedolim ben ketanim, or if he feeds his slaves, whether his slaves are adult or not, right? What's the common thing is that the children have no possessions and they're not chayav. They're not going to be chayav for anything because they're children, okay? And his slaves don't have any possessions of their own because anything that they take possession of automatically belongs to the owner. Okay. Or another case over here, ha'ochel trumas chutz la'aretz, v'ha'ochel pachas mikazayis truma, or somebody eats truma that was taken from chutz la'aretz. So as we saw, many of the surrounding lands also take truma, not just Eretz Yisrael. So it's a truma d'Rabbanan. Ha'ochel pachas mikazayis truma, and somebody eats less than a kazayis of truma. Mishalem is a keren. In all these cases, he must pay the keren, but he has no obligation to pay the chomesh, tashlumin chulin, and it's and the payment is chulin. In other words, what you're doing over here is and once again, so all these things fit together. As soon as it's no longer a ritual obligation to replace something that was to replace some truma that came out of the world, it immediately becomes a civil obligation. He has to make a repayment to the coin, and if the coin wants to repay it, wants to mochel, he can mochel. But so we're talking about chulin. So all these things go hand in hand. If it's something where there's a ritual obligation to replace the truma because he accidentally ate truma midoraisa, then he has to take chulin and turn it into truma, and there's the chomesh, and there will be a chomesh involved unless it's the case of that bas kohen. And it must be and the kohen has no right to be mochel because it's a ritual obligation. But as soon as we get into the D'Rabbanan level, it's no longer becoming real truma. It's immediately a civil obligation, and the kohen has the right to be mochel, and it's all going to be involved in chulin. So all of these cases that we had over here where he's got children eating, it's not him who is eating, he's or his slaves. So it's his fault that he gave them the food, so he has to make restitution. And the truma of chutz la'aretz and is a din d'Rabbanan in the first place, and less than a kazayas, the whole mitzvah doesn't attach to something that's not called an achila even, but nonetheless we still tell him that he has to make the payment, because even less than a kazayas can be worth more than a shabbat prota, because in terms of the monetary value, less than a kazayas can be worth something.
Less than okay.
Okay, so it's only within achila that it's not significant, but in terms of monetary value, certainly less than a kazayas can still be worth more than a shabbat prota.
We had yesterday when you were talking about in the kashrus about tasting the soup, for example. Or tasting the soup or taking the potato out of the cholent or something like that.
Yeah.
It would have to be less than a kazayas, less than a kibetza, in order to be consider that you have to make a bracha on that, or
no. A bracha rishona you make on any amount. It's only a bracha achrona it has to have been a kazayas.
Right, but I was thinking that because of the meat and milk issue, that it might be.
Okay, and again with meat and milk, we're not makpid on. We don't say if you ate less than a kazayas of meat, then you're not fleshek. Any amount.
Anyway, right. Okay. All right. Good.
Okay.
I had
Dalet
no
Hey.
okay. I had no plans, but Okay. If one wishes to, well, I one time, this was years ago when I first became, we had this fleshig dinner, and they used to have these little yogurt bars, and for some reason I got in my head that it was parv. I think I'm gonna have a yogurt bar, it's a parv thing, and like halfway through, I said, wait a second, this is not parv, this is milk. It was like the example you gave me. It was just like in my
Oops.
head. I said, yeah. Now what do I do? Like.
Oops.
So, oh yeah, like just a yogurt, yogurt bar. Anyway, okay. If one wishes to give more truma, from Eliezer says 1/10, as in the case of truma meiser. If one more than this, it should make it truma meiser from another place. But Mishmael says half chulin and half truma. Reb Tarfon and Reb Akiva say as long as it retains a part as chulin. At 3 times does one measure the baskets: at the time of the first ripe fruits, at the time of the late summer fruits, and in the middle of the summer. He who counts is praiseworthy, he who measures is more praiseworthy, and he who weighs is the most praiseworthy of the three. Reb Eliezer says Truma is nullified in 101. Reb Yeshua says in 100 and something. There is no measure to this and something. And Reb Yossi ben Meshulam says, and something is 1 kav to 100 saz, 1/6 of that which renders meduma.
In other words, it's a sixth of a
Six.
from that kav.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. On to Shavuos.
Right. Shvius Dalet Aleph.
At first they said a man may gather wood and stones and herbs from his own, just as he may gather from his neighbors, the large ones. When the number of transgressors increased, they decreed that one should gather from the other, not as a favor, nor needless to say, stipulating the allocation of food. A field which was cleared of thistles may be sown in the 8th year. One which was improved or one was used as a cattle fold may not be sown in the 8th year. The field which was improved, Beit Shammai says one may not eat its fruit in the 7th year, but Beit Hillel says one may eat it. Beit Shammai says one may not eat the fruits of the 7th year as a favor, and Beit Hillel says one may eat it whether or not he regards it as a favor. Rabbi Yehuda says turn it around. This is one of the leniencies of Beit Shammai and stringencies of Beit Hillel. Newly plowed land may be rented from a non-Jew in the 7th year, but not from a Jew. And one may encourage non-Jews in the 7th year, but not Jews, and one greets them for the sake of peace.
Brachas Gimel Beis.
As long as doing brachas, quick question: shekes, that fruit that I told you about,
Yeah, shesek.
does that come just from Eretz Yisrael, or can it come from anywhere? My reason for asking.
You're asking this because you're worried about Shemitah?
No, because when I was talking to a friend of mine, I said, "Oh, I was able to make a shekiano on this fruit." He said, "Are you sure it came from Eretz Yisrael? Because if it didn't, you can't really make a shekiano." So
What?
I thought that's what he
Did
said.
people did you make shechianu in Chutz La'aretz on fruit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he's saying that you can't make shechianu on fruit from Chutz La'aretz.
No. I always would if I had a new fruit. If I hadn't had a fruit in over a year, and all of a sudden,
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've never heard of such a thing that you can only say shechianu on Israeli fruit. That's not a thing.
Well, you can make. He said if it was from. He wanted to know if it was from Israel. I said, yeah, I think it's from Israel. Why wouldn't it? Because I never heard of it from anybody else. Is it an Israeli fruit?
I mean, it grows here. I can't speak for the exact fruit that you got, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't have Israeli loquats.
Right, loquats you can have them. I see maybe you can make a shekiano on it. It's not a.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand.
But I mean, but there's no. But I'm saying even if it came from Chutz La'aretz, you'd still make a shechianu on it.
Right.
Okay.
I have to stop listening to people because I get
Well, you
got
to choose. You got to choose or question because sometimes somebody makes a mistake, has a misconception.
Right.
I'll tell you. Last night, when I was preparing for my kashrus shir, I was looking for there was a piece where you're supposed to make a siman on your different kalim to show which is milchik and which is fleishik.
Right.
And I looked at the halacha and it says that the halacha is that the minhag is that you should make simanim on your milchik kalim, and that's minhag Yisrael, says the Rama, and you shouldn't change it. And I was like, when you see, I went and learned this in the shir with Rav Hanan when I was doing my smicha,
Right.
and I came back home and I got it exactly the opposite. I remembered that you had to make simanim on the fleshike kalim. So all of our houses I went around like putting simanim on all the fleshike kalim to make sure that we know which is fleshik. So that's what I did. I went and did exactly the opposite of the halakha. But yeah,
It's funny because I try to put a siman on both the kalim.
Yeah, if you can have two distinct simanim. But for example, on my pots, I put a little zip tie on the handles.
Right.
So you look at it, it's got a zip tie on it, it's flashing.
Right. That's good. We have those little stickers that you put on. They stay on forever. They never come off. And it says, dairy or meat, They buried the dead and returned. They are able to begin and finish before they reach the line. They should begin, and if not, they shall begin. Those standing in line.
They should not begin. If they can't do it in time,
they should begin. Always leave that not out. They should begin. If not, they shall begin. Not begin. Those standing in line, the innermost are exempt, while the other are obligated. Obliged, actually. Women, slaves, and minors are exempt from reading the Shema and Tefillin, but are subject to the obligation of Tefillin and Mezuzah, and to recite
Tefillah, not Tefillin. Be careful.
What did I say? Subject to the obligation.
I thought I heard you say
Tefillah. I did. I don't make believe I didn't say it. Tefillah and Mezuzah, and to recite Birkat Hamazon.
Right. So that's the Mishnah where we learn that. I mean, there's another place where we learn this about women, but that they're patur from mitzvahs aseh shezman grama.
Right. A Balkari reads mentally and does not recite the blessing before or after it. On food, he recites the after blessing but does not recite before. Rabbi Yehuda says he blesses before and after them.
Okay, we won't dwell too much on the Balkari story, because that's the Takanas Ezra, which fell into disuse because it was a gezer she'ena tibur yachol lamod bo. Okay, Orlos test base.
Okay, test base. If the hive is 1 handbreadth above the ground and there is tumah below it, inside the house or above the hive, everything becomes tameh except for that which is inside the hive. If the tumah is inside the hive, everything becomes tameh. In what case does this apply? When the hive is a utensil with windows. However, if it was broken...
Windows, did you say?
That's what it says here.
If it's a complete kli, but so the converse case that we're going to go into now is pechusa upekuka v'kash, where it's a damaged kli, which means it cannot insulate.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can get this. Windows seem to confuse you. Yeah, it just says that's where the windows are where through which the bees can enter, exit, and enter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Okay, that's why it's considered utensil. Okay, the bees can, since this is the way a hive is normally used, these windows are necessary for the hive to be considered a utensil. If there are no windows, the hive is no longer considered a utensil, and the ruling of the previous mishes are no longer valid.
Okay. Fine. The point being that once it's no longer a kli, then everything we've learned now changes, because it could only protect things inside itself while it was still a kli. But if it's blocked up with straw, for example, or if it's attached to the door of the house, then things change.
When the hive in one case this apply when the hive is a utensil with windows. However, if it was broken and stuffed with straw, or if the windows were covered, which is what is considered covered, when there is no window the size of a tefach and an olive-sized piece of corpse is located underneath the hive, utensils directly below the olive-sized piece as deep as one can go become tameh. If the kazayas is above the hive, utensils directly above the olive-sized piece are up to the sky become tameh. If the olive-sized piece is inside the house, only the house becomes tameh. If the olive-sized piece is inside the hive, only that which is inside becomes tameh.
Right, because now what happens is once something ceases to be a kli, then it can become an ohel.
Okay,
right. A kli can't be an ohel. In order to block, it can spread tumah, but it can't block tumah. But now this kli that's no longer considered a kli, but it's got the dimensions that are sufficient to be an ohel. So if you've got the tumah underneath it, then it is then the tumah can only go downwards, and if it's on top, then it can only go upwards. And if it's in the house, only the house will be tameh. And if it's inside the kli itself, the kli, well, it's not really a kli now. It just spreads inside the ohel of the kli, but it doesn't go any further.
Okay.
Okay.
If the hive is one handbreadth above the ground and there is tumah below it or inside the house, whatever is below the hive or inside the house becomes tameh, but whatever is inside or above the hive remains tahor. If the tumah is inside the hive, only that which is inside becomes tameh. If the tumah is above the hive, utensils directly above it up to the sky become tameh.
All right. So because the inside, because it's basically an oil both above and below, so it contains the tumah completely inside it, being that it's functioning now as ohel, not as kli. Okay. Actually, quite enjoy that perek in ohalos. It's there's some very clear principles that you give me any case and I can tell you I can work out the mechanics and it all makes sense.
Who goes in and
it's similar in that perek is similar to a lot of the cases in Yevamos, where you've just got a certain logic where you know if you can see the mechanics of what happens to Eishes Ach and to Eishes Zukukaso and whatever, all these Achos Zukukaso, all these combinations that come in, and it's just a pure logic that the Mishna is just telling you what the outcome is. But if you tell me the case, I would be able to derive it. I quite enjoy Mishnahs like that. Okay.
Who goes in and inspects the hive?
I think we're talking about without bees.
Right, I know. Okay. Idios?
Go.
Okay. Dalid Tess?
Hey, Vav.
Hey. Oh, a tissue came out to one place. Okay, sorry about that.
Famous case of Akavia ben Mahalalel.
Yeah, okay. All right, it's right. Akavia ben Mahalel testified concerning 4 matters. The Kakaman said to him, Akavia, rescind from your position on the 4 matters that you have said, and we will appoint you as the Av-based din for the Jewish people. Akavia replied to them, it is preferable for me to be called a fool all my days and not become a wicked person for even one moment before the Amma present, that people should not say Akavia retracted from his opinions for the sake of obtaining a position of authority. He, Akavia, would declare Tameh the deposited hair and yellow uterine blood, but the sages declare them tahor. This page, there we go. He would permit the benefiting from the hair of a blemished bakor, which fell out and was placed in the recess of the wall, and afterwards he slaughtered the animal, but the Kachamim prohibited it. He, Akavia ben Mamahal, used to say, we do not give to drink neither to a female convert nor to a freed slave woman. But the Kachamim say we do give them to drink, and they said to him, an incident once took place in Yerushalayim in connection with Charchamis, a freed slave woman, and Shemaiah and Abtalon. And Abiton gave her sota water to drink. Akavia ben Mamahal replied to them, they gave her to drink similar. And they
in other words, they gave her a placebo,
right?
Because that was he said the halachas that you don't give to them. Okay.
And they excommunicated Akavia, and he died in the state of excommunication. And the court had his coffin stoned. Rabbi Yehuda said, heaven forbid that one say that Akavia was excommunicated, for the doors of the temple courtyard did not close on anyone for the entire people of Israel, who was as great in wisdom and in fear of sin as was Akavia ben Mamahel. Rather, who was it that they communicated? It was Eliezer ben Kanach, who slighted the requirement of keeping one's hands tahor. And when he died, the court sent his agents, and they placed a stone on his coffin, which teaches you that when anyone is excommunicated and dies in a state of excommunication, the court stones his coffin. At the time of Akiva's death, he said to his son, my son, retract from the 4 matters that I used to say. He said to Akavia's father, why did you not retract yourself? Akavia said to his son, I heard these rulings pronounced by the majority, and the Kachamim heard them pronounced by the majority. Thus I adhered to my received tradition, and they adhered to their received tradition. But you heard one set of rulings pronounced by a single individual, myself, and a conflicting set of rulings pronounced by the majority. Therefore, it is preferable for you to abandon the words of the individual and grasp onto the words of the majority. He said to Akiva, Father, intercede with your colleagues about me. And Akiva answered him, I will not intercede. He said to Akiva, perhaps you have found some cause in me. Akiva said to him, no, it is your deeds that will bring you close to the Chachamim, and your deeds that I will distance from you.
Amazing Musa that he's saying, I'm not stepping in for you. You got to stand on your own feet too, if you want standing with the Chachamim. I'm not giving you any pretext here. And it's amazing also that he has the humility to say, look, I stick by my word because as far as I'm concerned, I thought that this is the view of the majority. But so that's why I stand by mine, but you've only heard it from me. So I'm a minority. You must go by the majority. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing humility to say that, and like he's not personally invested. It's not ego that he's saying I'm right and they're wrong. He's just I'm following the rules. The rules say that I've got to stick to my view because that's what I heard. But your rules are different. I mean, your situation is different. So follow the rules the correct way.
Rabbi Yehuda ben Bavia testified concerning 5 things. The first, that we, the court, caused certain minors to refuse to continue the marriage. And they testified that we allow a woman to remarry based on one witness. And he testified that a rooster was once stoned in Yerushalayim for killing a person. And he testified that 40-day-old wine was poured as a libation on the altar. And he testified about the morning Talmud that he may be offered until 4 hours of the day. Okay.
And Moed Katan Gimel Base.
Yes. And these people may launder their clothing during Kol HaMoed. One who arrived from abroad, was released from captivity, left prison, or the excommunication whose ban was lifted by the Chachamim. Similarly, one who applied to a stage and was released from his vow. Hand towels, barber's cloths, and bath towels may also be laundered. Zavam, Zavos, menstruants, women who have given birth, and all are returned from a state of contamination to a state of purity, these are permitted to launder their clothing, and all others are forbidden. And these documents may be written during Kol HaMoed: instruments of betrothal, divorces, receipts, testaments, gifts, prosbulim, evaluation documents, support documents, kalitza certificates, refusal selection, contracts, court edicts, and government documents. We may not write loan contracts during Kol HaMoed. However, if he does not trust him or he has nothing to eat, he may write. We may not write books of scripture or tefillin or mezuzahs during Kol HaMoed. We may not correct a single letter even in the Torah scroll of the temple courts. Rabbi Yehuda says a person may write tefillin or mezuzahs for his personal use, and he may spin the blue thread for its tzitzis on his thigh.
Right. So here's an interesting ma'aseh shahaya about some Talmid Chacham who was going into the dinim of prosbul, and he put together this whole thesis about how prosbul must be written on Erev Rosh Hashanah, and if it's written before, then it's not valid. He had this whole brought together all this pilpul and this logic and whatever, and he came to present it to his Rebbe, and his Rebbe said, "This is like a real case," and the Rebbe said, "Moed Katan Gimel Gimel." And he looks at this and says, "Elu kosvin b'moed." The following things you can write on the Chol HaMoed: Kedushay Nashim, Gitin V'Shovarin, Diatiki, Matana, U'Prosbolin. Now, exactly which Chol HaMoed are we talking about over here? We said it might be that you can write the prosbul within 30 days of Rosh Hashanah, he said, because it has to be in the Chodesh Elul. So exactly which Chol HaMoed are we talking about where you're writing a prosbul? You got 2 choices here. You got Sukkot and you got Pesach.
Yeah. There's no Shavuos. There's nothing else.
Yeah. Okay. So this must be talking about Pesach, because the Sukkot is already too late to write a prosbul.
Well, that's right. It's afterwards, right? That's right. It has to be
so you must be talking about Pesach, and you can write a prosbul already in Pesach of the Shemitah, and it'll be valid. And it'll only be valid for the loans that he took out before then, but you see there that and so this Talmid Chacham had to basically tear up all of his work. What can you do? You find something that's a total tiyuvta to everything that you believed, and you've got to have the intellectual honesty to say, "Oh, okay, I got this one dead wrong."
That's a good question to give somebody.
Yeah.
Prosville, yeah. All right. All right, good. Okay. We have one more.
Okay, that's it. We're done.
Oh, that's right. We're done. That's right.
Have a wonderful day.
Great day. Enjoy, and Mr. Shem, I will see you to. Are we doing late tomorrow? You're doing whatever. I'll be here.
Whatever.
Okay.
Yep.